Everyone talks about Jude Bellingham as the superstar at Real Madrid, but few know he was just a kid from Stourbridge whose own father made talent worthless without discipline. By 16, Jude was Birmingham City's youngest ever player. So how did relentless routine and a mindset forged in family rules turn an ordinary child into the heartbeat of Europe's biggest club? The answer starts at home. Stourbridge sits quietly in the West Midlands, far from the spotlight of football's grand arenas. That is where Jude Bellingham's story begins, not with fame, but with family. Inside the Bellingham home, there was no special treatment, no shortcuts, no talk of future stardom. Mark Bellingham, Jude's father, worked as a police sergeant by day and spent his evenings coaching local kids and running Stourbridge juniors. He had scored hundreds of goals in non-league football, but what he really passed on to his sons was a simple rule. Whatever you do it with respect and give it everything you have. Football was not a reward, it was a responsibility. Jude's mother, Denise, balanced the intensity with calm. She taught Jude and his younger brother, Job, how to handle wins and losses with the same steady heart. At first, Jude was not even interested in football. He would pick grass or wander off during early sessions, but around 6, something changed. Suddenly, he wanted to compete. By 7, he was playing Sunday League with Stourbridge juniors, learning to fight for every ball alongside his classmates. At home, the message was clear. Schoolwork came first. If grades slipped, football stopped. Mark did not shout or lecture. He simply expected standards to be met. Denise made sure the house felt stable, even as football grew more serious. It was a normal life, but the routines were anything but ordinary. That is where the obsession with details began, with little things every day, repeated until they became second nature. In that household, talent was never enough. Standards came first. At Birmingham City's academy, Jude Bellingham stood out for reasons that had nothing to do with natural talent. He was the kid who arrived early, finished every sprint first, and stayed behind to practice long after teammates had left. At just 14, he was already training with the under-18 team, holding his own against boys 4 years older. By 15, he stepped up to the under-23 team, facing players on the edge of professional football. Coaches noticed more than just his ability. They saw a teenager obsessed with improvement. Mike Dodds, one of his youth coaches, remembers Jude peppering him with questions after every session, wanting to know why drills mattered and how to read the game better. While other academy prospects focused on flashy skills, Jude studied positioning, watched senior matches, and took notes on how older players moved off the ball. That single-minded routine paid off in public. On August 6, 2019, just 16 years and 38 days old, Jude became Birmingham City's youngest ever first-team player, breaking a club record that had stood for half a century. He didn't just make up the numbers, he looked like he belonged, slotting into the midfield as if pressure was just another part of training. The academy staff saw the connection immediately. The habits built behind closed doors had prepared him for the biggest stage. Jude's debut wasn't a fluke. It was the outcome of years spent treating every day like an audition, every drill like a test, every mistake as a lesson. That mindset, relentless, disciplined, and hungry, set the standard for everything that would follow. When Jude Bellingham landed in Germany at 17, the challenge was bigger than just football. Borussia Dortmund had paid 25 million euros for a teenager, but money does not buy respect in a dressing room full of seasoned pros. Jude did not try to win people over with flash or noise. He learned German fast, answering questions in interviews, joking with teammates, showing he cared enough to adapt. The coaches noticed, senior players noticed. They saw a kid who trained like every session was a final, who asked for feedback in a new language, who stayed late to study match film when others went home. Before his 18th birthday, he was leading team talks. On November 10, 2021, with Marco Reus and Mats Hummels out, Bellingham walked out wearing the captain's armband, 18 years and 38 days old, the youngest captain in Bundesliga history. The moment was not handed to him. It was earned in the weight room, in the cold, in hours spent perfecting his first touch and his German verbs. Dortmund's manager, Edin Terzic, called him a leader in a squad of grown men. Teammates like Marco Reus spoke about his standards, not his age. In the Champions League, those habits showed up under the brightest lights. Against Manchester City in 2021, Bellingham's positioning and confidence stood out. He demanded the ball, pressed relentlessly, and influenced the tempo against world-class opponents. The armband was not a symbol of hype. It was a signal that standards translate, no matter the country, no matter the language. At Dortmund, Jude did not just adapt, he set the pace. A €103 million move to Real Madrid is supposed to weigh heavy. For most players, the white shirt is a test of nerve as much as talent. Critics lined it up before Jude Bellingham had even set foot in Spain, calling the transfer premature, warning that Madrid eats young stars alive. The headlines questioned everything: his age, his readiness, whether he'd even start. It didn't matter. From the first whistle, Bellingham played like the Bernabeu was home. In his debut month, he scored in 4 straight La Liga matches, notching decisive goals and turning doubts into applause. The defining moment came on October 28, 2023, in his very first El Clasico. With the score locked and the world watching, Bellingham delivered a thunderbolt from outside the box. Then, deep in stoppage time, he found the winner, a poacher's finish in front of a stunned Camp Nou. That single night shifted the conversation. Spanish newspapers splashed his name across their front pages. Pundits who had questioned his price now called him Madrid's new heartbeat. Inside the dressing room, veterans like Luka Modric and Toni Kroos praised his maturity. Carlo Ancelotti, Madrid's seasoned coach, described him as a player who plays with the calm of a veteran and the hunger of a kid. The pressure that was supposed to break him instead revealed a player who thrived on expectation. In those first months, Bellingham didn't just fit in, he set the standard. The world stopped talking about his age and started talking about his impact. For Madrid's fans, the message was clear. This wasn't a gamble. It was validation. England's senior call-up arrived in November 2020, but the real test came 2 years later on the world's biggest stage. At just 19, Bellingham started in the heart of midfield for England in the World Cup knockout rounds. While others hesitated, he demanded the ball, drove the team forward, and never hid from the moment. Gareth Southgate called him a player who could be trusted in chaos, someone who didn't just survive pressure but truly thrived on it. In a squad packed with experience, England handed responsibility to a teenager, not because of hype, but because he had already earned their trust. Late nights out never made Jude Bellingham better. Instead, his routine was built on early nights, a clean diet, and a strict recovery plan that left no room for shortcuts. Every match was followed by film study, sometimes with his father, sometimes alone, breaking down plays and spotting patterns most players overlook. In training, he practiced scanning the pitch before the ball arrived, talking constantly to teammates and moving to spaces that did not exist yet. These habits were not glamorous, but they gave him an edge. Fresher legs, a sharper mind, and a game that ran one step ahead of everyone else. For Jude, discipline was not a sacrifice. It was the secret ingredient that turned small daily choices into world-class performances. When the noise got loud, when pundits questioned his place, when headlines doubted his ceiling, Jude Bellingham never fired back with words. He didn't post, didn't argue, didn't chase the spotlight. He let his football do the talking. Each time the critics circled, he answered with another performance, another goal, another game where the only thing louder than the doubt was the result. Silence, then proof. Today, in an era where hype can outpace hard work, Bellingham's discipline stands as a quiet revolution. Every decisive touch on the world's biggest stages is built on habits anyone can choose. In football and beyond, standards, not shortcuts, still decide who lasts. What standards are you setting?